Welcome to Cinema Detective. You probably missed the real ending of Wolves. In this video, I'm going to explain why the two aging fixers, played by George Clooney and Brad Pitt, don't figure everything out, and how most viewers didn't either. This video is for people who've already seen the film and are looking for answers, so if you want to avoid spoilers, now is the time to leave. Let's jump to that rapid-fire dialogue at the end of the film, where Clooney and Pitt's characters, Margaret's man and Pam's man, seem to figure everything out and deliver the film's final twist.
We had the same guy?
We both had the same guy. We were getting cleaned.
That's the grand finale to the surface level plot, which left many viewers underwhelmed. But here's the thing, Clooney and Pitt don't actually figure everything out, and John Watts, who wrote and directed Wolves, wants us to know that. The two fixers believe that the Albanians didn't act because the tracker wasn't turned on until they received the pager message.
The Albanians don't make a move,
The tracker's not even on the page.
But here's the thing, that's clearly wrong. Check out the car with the underglow lights at the warehouse.
Is that
The Albanians.
Yeah, that's the Albanians' car, and it has a tracking system that we can clearly see in this shot. A closer look shows that this car has actually been tracking them the entire movie. We first see the car with the underglow lights in this shot, more on that guy later. So we know the Albanians have followed the two fixers to Chinatown. The tracker is already operating. We also see the Albanians right after the kid jumps the car, and when they went to that sketchy hotel, the Albanians had followed them again. The car drives past right after they arrive, and they're still being followed when they arrive at the club and climb up the ladder. So what else didn't they figure out? Well, a lot actually. The shadow plot. There's something going on in this movie that's more complicated than just two fixers having the same boss. Before we go any further, let's clear up some housekeeping. Although Clooney and Pitt are credited as Margaret's man and Pam's man, we know from Apple's marketing that their characters are actually called Jack and Nick. So to keep things simple, I'll refer to them as Jack, that's Clooney, and Nick, that's Brad Pitt, for the rest of the video. Let's start with an easy question. Did Jack and Nick die at the end? Well, probably not, because Apple's already ordered a sequel. And sure, they could make a sequel without Pitt and Clooney, but, you know, good luck with that. Director John Watts clearly took inspiration from the defiant ending of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. In that classic film, Butch and Sundance represent the Old West, and their final stand symbolises the end of an era. They're out of step with the pace of the modern world, and it's their inability to adapt that leads to their downfall. Jack and Nick are being cleaned for two reasons. First, their worlds have collided. Both fixers end up being called for the same job, which immediately creates a liability. They explain this themselves earlier in the film.
When you hire someone to do what we do, you want someone who works alone.
If he saw us together.
He would, without hesitation, have us killed immediately.
Or kill us himself.
And the same thing applies to the guy, their shadowy boss. But the second reason, the one that parallels Butch and Sundance more closely, is that they're just too old. Just like Butch and Sundance, they're at the end of their era. Nick even describes Jack this way.
He's had his moment, where he was the go-to guy, the hot shit guy, but that wore off a long time ago and no one's told him yet.
June sarcastically equates Nick with Jack.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that type.
They're practically the same person. They're clones of each other.
Yeah, you got like basically the same clothes, kind of talk the same, like basically the same guy.
So if Jack is past his prime, so is Nick.
And careful up your back.
Yep.
The jokes about their age, their creaking knees, their bad backs, and the need for reading glasses, they aren't just fun nods to Clooney and Pitt's real-life aging. They're part of the plot. Jack and Nick are being replaced by the next generation, even if they haven't quite figured out why they're being cleaned. And this brings us to the next big thing that Jack and Nick didn't understand. The kid isn't who he says he is. They assume he's naive and just got mixed up in this mess. They believe his story that he met Margaret, the DA, by accident, and is delivering drugs as a favour for a friend. But pay attention to how the kid stalls for time when he's telling his story.
Let me explain, okay? Can I get a glass of water? So I wake up. Well,
Hey! Think about it.
right. I'm getting up and I'm getting out of bed.
He's more cunning than they realise. I think the kid is being groomed to be the next generation of fixer. There's definitely a mentor's protege vibe going on throughout the story. I think he might be working for the guy, and he didn't just accidentally end up at the hotel. He was sent there. Check the hotel security camera that we see in the mid-credits. When the kid arrives, he waves at someone and then quickly tries to hide it. Lots of reviewers have pointed out that any honey trap plot that would presume the DA would pick up the kid just isn't a solid plan. And I think that's right, because that was never the setup. The meeting with Margaret, it's arranged. The cameras in the room weren't just for blackmail. They wanted to know what Margaret knew. Margaret is running for re-election as a DA with a tough on crime stance. But if you're clean and law-abiding, you don't have friends that give you phone numbers to clean up murders. When we look at Margaret's phone, we can see that she's got lots of influential contacts, like the judge, and she's got a direct line for the Drug Enforcement Agency. One of these contacts gave her Jack's number, and after the incident, Margaret considers calling Senator Zeigler. And I suspect that Zeigler is the one that gave her the phone number for the fixer for Jack. Senator Zeigler could be facilitating the property deals that are how the crime money is being laundered. There are a lot of construction projects that Dowd Herdery Properties are involved in. We can see that as Jack and Nick drive around the city. The criminals need to know for sure that Margaret is in their pocket. It's the kid's job to make sure that happens. It's even possible that Margaret handed the drugs to the kids herself, and maybe that's what the meeting was about. After all, Zeigler is a Jewish surname meaning bricklayer. And what do we see? Bricks of uncut heroin. So maybe the kid wasn't delivering drugs for LaGrange. He was setting up the Albanians and LaGrange's gang so they'd eliminate each other. And Margaret is genuinely shaken up when the kid apparently dies in her hotel room. There's no reason for all that drama if she was expecting it. So the kid falling on the glass table was genuinely an accident. He messed up.
If someone messes up, you make it okay, right?
That's why the kid is thanking Jack and Nick.
Thank you.
He messed up at the hotel, and although they don't realise it, they're fixing things for him. And the kid understands the loneliness of being a fixer. Look at him here with these two fries. He's holding his two friends. And then, abruptly, he gets up to go to the toilet. And I think that it's significant that the message comes to the pager when the kid goes to the toilet. He mentioned that he hid his phone.
Where's your phone?
I hid it?
Not left it at home, he hid it somewhere. Did he hide his phone in the bathroom, like Michael Corleone hid a gun in The Godfather? Did he contact someone when he was in the restroom? The kid also miraculously survives the shootout in the warehouse, and I think this implies that he knew that it was going to happen. He doesn't even really explain how he survived. Jack and Nick don't want to suffer another long story. My guess is that he alerted LaGrange's men that the Albanians were coming, and then promptly hid inside the trunk moments before the shootout began. So who is the kid? It's possible that he's a family member somehow related to the guy, or maybe they've got some leverage over him and they're able to force him to take on this dangerous work. After all, how did Jack and Nick become who they are? It seems to me that Jack has a police background. He uses a police badge when he parks his car outside the hotel. He's got knowledge of the law.
Hidden fucking camera, that's illegal surveillance. That's a Class D felony in the state of New York. A Class D felony.
You're more than welcome to leave, sir. Your services are no longer required.
And then there's that film trope that cops can always tell other cops.
That's big talk coming from a hotel policeman.
So I think Jack and Nick are likely cops or ex-cops, and at some point in the past they've been corrupted. They got in too deep, and the kid might be in the same type of scenario. Not that he's a cop, but being manipulated by the guy, being groomed into being a fixer. After the shootout in the warehouse, he's advised by Nick to think about the story he wants to tell, and as Jack is thinking about shooting him in the back, and he's laying down the drugs and muttering to himself, there's a sort of throaty laugh that seems to come from one of the injured men lying on the ground.
I'm pretty sure that this guy over here was in charge of these guys.
Maybe he's laughing because the kid said that this guy over here was in charge. We're kind of distracted here because Jack's got his gun out. There's definitely more to the kid than meets the eye. And I think it's something else that Jack and Nick didn't really figure out. So then Jack and Nick take the kid back to see his dad. And this is another scene where they seem to be a bit naive. Look at the way the kid touches them both in the arm. It's like he knows something. And notice how quickly he speaks when his dad answers the door.
Hey Dad, these guys need to talk to you about something.
He doesn't give him time to speak. I don't think this really is his dad. So who is this guy, the Sinatra fan? Well, it's possible he is the guy, the shadowy employer of Jack and Nick. We don't know if they've ever met the guy or spoke to him before. Or maybe this Sinatra fan just works for the guy. The fact that he's a Sinatra fan is a big red flag. There's long been speculation that Frank Sinatra had connections with organised crime. So that's the link there. But it's the story that he tells that gives so much away.
So Frank is doing this movie, Manchurian Candidate, was notorious for just doing one take. And the director, he says that was perfect. Let's do one more. Frank says, I'll tell you what, if it's so perfect, Why don't you print it twice?
Scriptwriters need to be very economical with lines. So what's the point of this scene? There's a meaning to it. The Sinatra fan is explaining to Jack and Nick why there are two of them, two clones, same methods, same weapons, same values. They thought they were unique. It had been hammered home to them that nobody can do what they do.
There's only one man in the city who can do what you do. He said, that man is an expert. That man is a professional.
I didn't know people like you really existed.
They don't. There's nobody who can do what I do.
I have brought in someone I know through a trusted friend to take care of this problem. He is an expert. He is the very best there is. There is, quite simply, no one else out there who can do what he does.
It was something they prided themselves on. But here's the thing, they were so perfect that the guy made 2 copies of them. Without telling them outright, he's telling them why there are 2 of them. Why, when they thought they were special and the only one that could do what they do, there were actually 2 of them. It could be that this man is the guy, or maybe he's just close enough to the guy that he knows the story. The fixers, the wolves, were so perfect that 2 of them were printed, and they are of course called Wolf as a tip of the hat to Pulp Fiction.
I'm Winston Wolfe. I solve problems.
Jack's New York State license plate is 3AB M582, and that's a subtle reference to Winston Wolfe, who drove a silver Nissan with California tags of 3AB M581. So the film's title isn't a typo. When you pluralise a surname, you don't change the internal spelling, you just add an S. So these 2 guys are 2 Winston Wolfes, Jack Wolfe and Nick Wolfe. I'm not saying that's their actual names, I'm just explaining the weird spelling of the title. So putting it all together, the guy is either a mob boss or working for a shadowy mob boss. The shadowy mob boss is working with Pamela's company, Dowd Herdery, to launder the proceeds of crime. They probably stole the Albanian drugs. The DA is threatening to be tough on crime, so they need to get something on her so that she's definitely in their pocket. The kid is sent there to make sure they've got Margaret in their pocket. But the fall was accidental, and that's when things started to go wrong and the 2 fixers were called in. And now that the 2 fixers have made contact, they need to be eliminated. Rather than have them killed, the guy thinks he'll just let them deliver the drugs, and it might take care of itself. They might be killed in the shootout that he's arranging. The kid was also to deliver the drugs to one of the drug gangs, probably Lagrange, and at the same time lure the Albanians so that the 2 rival gangs would meet. The Albanians were following the entire time. The guy probably provided them with the tracking information. The bar mitzvah in Chinatown that surprised Nick is possibly a link between Senator Zeigler and the guy. This guy was sent because Jack and Nick weren't answering their phone. And the club is probably also owned by the guy, and he's letting his associate Dimitri use the venue for his daughter's wedding. They didn't fool Dimitri in the stupid dancing scene. He'd been told not to kill Jack and Nick because the guy had plans for them. And at the end here in the cafe, notice that we can see Margaret, the DA, on the TV in the background. A lot of people said that Margaret should return, and she does return. She returns on the TV screen there, and I'm not entirely sure what that's suggesting, but there she is. I know a lot of what I've put forward in this video is very speculative, and I'm sure that I didn't get everything right. Whatever the specifics are, Wolfes wants to imply a more complex story than the one that Jack and Nick seemingly figured out at the end. The problem is, it's a distinctly average film on the surface level. Sure, it's enjoyable enough if you just want a bit of banter between Clooney and Pitt, but the surface level plot, that they both had the same boss, left most viewers underwhelmed. And the shadow plot, or the hidden plot, it didn't really work because it's just too convoluted to put it all together. And because the surface plot is kind of lame, nobody really cares enough to try and figure out what's going on in the background. So ultimately, Jack and Nick didn't figure everything out, and I'm not sure we did either. So what do you think? Is the shadow plot too complicated to figure out, or was Wolves just a surface level comedy thriller? Am I reading too much into it? Let me know in the comments, and if you're still with me after all this, and if you liked this video, then please hit the subscribe button.